All right. All right. So, welcome everybody. And thank you so much for attending this session at the 2023 RDAP Summit. My name is Emily Singley, and I'm the Vice President of North American Library Relations at Elsevier and the moderator for this panel discussion. This is session 4A entitled, Are We There Yet? Building a Robust RDM Ecosystem to Support Widespread Research Data Sharing and Funder Policy Compliance. So a few logistics before we get started. This is a Zoom webinar. All attendees are muted and your cameras are turned off. You can ask a question anytime during the session. Please use the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. We'll be holding questions till the end of the session. The session will run for 1 hour, and we will dedicate about the last 10 minutes for audience Q&A. The session will include 4 brief live presentations, followed by moderated discussion, and again, then audience Q&A. And after the session, you can, of course, continue the conversation by dropping questions in the chat in Whova. We do have a code of conduct at RDAP. The Research Data Access and Preservation Summit organizers are committed to providing an environment where all attendees can participate fully in the program and activities without fear of harassment or discriminatory behavior of any kind. We do have a code of conduct helper available during this session. The helper is Emily Kilser, and you may direct messages to them in Whova if you need assistance. They can give you the code of conduct email address or the link to the incident report form as needed. So today we're going to be hearing from 3 experts who are going to provide use cases that delve into different aspects of our topic. I'm very pleased to be joined by Kristen Briney, who's the Biology and Biological Engineering Librarian at Caltech. And Kristen is going to be sharing how Caltech is migrating to a new data services platform. I'm also joined by Julie Goldman, the Research Data Services Librarian at Harvard Library. And Julie will be talking about professional development in RDM and the RDMLA program. And I'm joined by Plato Smith, the Data Management Librarian at the University of Florida. And Plato's going to be sharing a collaborative project about implementing electronic lab notebooks. So I'm going to kick us off just to set the stage a little bit for our topic today. And I'm just going to start by mentioning what I think we're all very familiar with at this point, which is the new federal mandates that are already in place in the case of the NIH, and also emerging in the case of the guidance that's coming out of different federal agencies in response to the OSTP memo last fall. Not going to say too much about that, but that's one of the things that sort of is driving some of the collaborations and work that we're going to be discussing today. And of course, getting to compliance with these guidelines and policies and mandates for different institutions requires building workflows and infrastructure that can be very complex, interdepartmental, and even interinstitutional. So that's why we have this theme of collaboration as being essential. And I'm just listing out some of the many different areas that need to collaborate as we get this work done together. And of course, the infrastructure is increasingly very complex and cross-departmental and needs to be interoperable. And from a vendor perspective, since I work at a vendor that supports many of these different tools and services, it's something that we're seeing a lot more of now with librarians really talking about how they need to work together with all these different areas on campus. We're seeing collaborations ramp up at different institutions across all these different areas, whether it's compliance monitoring using a tool like Data Monitor, institutional repositories and data repositories, RIM and CRIS systems, faculty activity reporting, showcasing faculty work, et cetera, et cetera. And lastly, of course, it requires community, right? So building robust communities around research data management is key. And I wanted to just highlight a couple of these communities that Elsevier is involved with and that I've been involved with. One is the NIH's Generalist Repository Ecosystem, or GRAY initiative, which is a community of vendors who received NIH grant funding to build free, open, generalist repositories that support fair data sharing. Our gray repository is Mendeley Data. And another example is the RDM Librarian Academy, RDMLA, which is an Elsevier-sponsored program that Julie's going to be talking a lot more about a little bit later on. So just a couple examples of some of those kind of communities that we're building together. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to our three panelists who are going to kind of dive deeper into three different case studies in these areas. So I will pass it off to Kristen first.
Thank you, Emily. So I'm going to be talking about Caltech Library and our involvement in the Invenio RDM project, which is a platform for data repositories. Next slide, Emily. Next slide. There we go. So you may, sorry, I said that twice. You may have not heard of Invenio RDM. It's relatively new, but you have likely heard of Zenodo. Zenodo is a generalist repository, and they are currently running on Invenio and will be migrating to Invenio RDM sometime in 2023. So what happened is a lot of people really liked the Invenio platform that Zenodo is using. People saw that it was open source and decided to copy it and make modifications, which is not a great way to develop software because everyone with a bunch of individual modified software makes it hard to do essential upgrades, essential updates. So instead, everyone came together and decided that they were going to work together as a collaborative on not only improving Invenio RDM, but actually redesigning it as Invenio and redesigning it as Invenio RDM. So next slide. So that led to the Invenio RDM collaborative project. The code for Invenio RDM went live and became available in 2022. And as of now, I know that there are 3 institutions that are running it and with several more that are going to be transitioning in the next year. If you want to play along at home, you're welcome to go check out our instance at data.caltech.edu, where we're running Invenio as our data repository. At this point, I also have to say thank you to Tom Morell, who's Caltech Library's research data specialist. I am here today representing our library, but really representing Tom because he has been contributing to the project and knows a lot more technical information about it than I have. So I'm going to answer your questions. If it gets too technical, I'm going to actually send you to Tom, and Tom will be happy to tell you all about the ins and outs of Invenio RDM. Next slide. So I'm going to show you off a couple screenshots of Invenio RDM. Again, you can go to data.caltech.edu and poke around yourself and tell you a little bit about some of the features that you might have not seen before for this platform. So Invenio RDM is an open source project. It's designed to work out of the box, but you can customize it. And the nice thing is that there is a group behind it that is continually developing features in the project partners. So you can see this is the homepage of our Caltech data repository. Our customization that we've done is that lovely Caltech orange. So everything is Caltech orange on the homepage. What we really like about Invenio RDM is it's been built to scale. This is a problem with our current repository software is just not built for tens of thousands of records. But Invenio RDM was meant to handle Zenodo, and Zenodo has 5 million DOIs. So Invenio RDM will scale because 5 million DOIs, it should work. And things like search, which don't work in our current repository system, will work in Invenio RDM because they're using the latest technology. Next slide. So here is a screenshot of the deposit form. I believe in our instance, you actually have to be logged in to deposit, so you won't be able to see this. But on the left side of the image, we have kind of 2/3 of the screen is taken up with, at the top is the drag and drop for actually submitting files, and the bottom is all the metadata information that you add. And on the right side, some settings for you to save your drafts and to set different visibility. So this whole form was designed to make it easy for users to deposit. We really want to make that process as seamless as possible. One thing that we really like is in native Invenio RDM is that there's the ability to save drafts so people can work on a deposit, save it, come back to it later without having to publish it. You can also make records fully private, metadata only, or completely public. And for those fully private records, you can still generate a link for people to do during data peer review. And also there's the ability to embargo. So there's a lot of settings for making things private or public in different gradients. There is actually the ability to do some version control. So when you upload files, that's version 1. When you go to modify your files, you actually are creating a new version of that file. And when someone is viewing the old version of the file, they'll get a notification that there's a new version available. And those old versions actually get hidden during searches. So you're only going to see the new versions, and then you'll see within the record the version history. You can link between them. There is the possibility in Invenio RDM for curation, and that happens in the community features. So the communities are groups, like a project, a laboratory, something that says these files are related. And then within a community, you can appoint a collaborator or a curator. It does not have to be somebody on staff for the repository. You can say this laboratory is the community, and this person in the laboratory is going to make sure all the laboratory's files are curated and accurate and the way the laboratory wants to represent their files. But you can also say the entire repository is a community and curate everything that goes into the repository. So there's some flexibility through that feature. Next slide. So the next slide is a example of a data set that is published. You can see at the top, we have the title of the data set. Underneath, we have the authors, their ORCID IDs, and the affiliations are hidden. One thing I really like is Invenio provides a citation with a drop-down citation style picker that you can basically do citation styles on the fly for a certain number of citation styles. We have a description. Underneath that is the file previewer. This particular file is a zip file of a bunch of files, and the file previewer will actually open up that folder and preview the folders and the files within the zip file, which I think is really cool. On the right, you can see we have version information, keywords, and the DOI that's been assigned. The other thing that I really, really, really love about Invenio RDM is it was designed to leverage controlled vocabularies, and we get to pick which controlled vocabularies we use. I could do a whole talk on just this part of Invenio RDM. So we got 3 running, and we're going to do a 4th. So we have ORCID identifiers. This one, we actually have an internal list in the library of researchers that we know their ORCID IDs. So when I go and type in, my name is Kristen Briney, and it says, oh, Kristen Briney with this ORCID ID, yes, that's me. And when I publish that, because we mint a DataCite DOIs, and I have DataCite and ORCID connected on my backend for ORCID, I publish a data set in my data repository, and next thing I know, it's appeared in my ORCID profile, and it's beautiful, and I love it. The other one that I'm really excited about is ROR, Research Organization Registry. If you've never heard of ROR, they're like ORCID IDs for people or for institutions. So ORCID is for people, ROR is for institutions. They're amazing. I want everybody to implement these because it'll make things like collaborator reports and identifying which institutions people are at a lot easier. So with ROR, Caltech and California Institute of Technology are the same institution, has one ID, and that will make things a lot clearer for institutional affiliations. So RORs are good. We also use Field of Science for subject keywords, and we're currently testing out having a controlled vocabulary for funded grants, which we're really excited about. So at the end of any NEH grant, anything that's been shared in our repository, we'll be able to say, yes, that goes with that NEH grant, and here's all the data sets, and look at that, compliance, isn't that lovely? So that's the one we're working to implement. Next slide. So that's a little bit of preview of the system. We've done just a few customizations, but mostly as it appears out of the box. We're currently running our Caltech data repository on Invenio RDM with plans to migrate our institutional repository and our thesis repository, and then the other repositories like the campus publications repository. So Invenio RDM was designed, as it says in the name, for data, but can be used as an institutional repository. We're kind of on the cutting edge of that. I think Northwestern Galter Library will also be using this as their institutional repository. So really excited to send our 100,000 record repository into Invenio RDM, and that the software we're running is like 20 years out of date. So it's going to be amazing. And then we'll be transitioning our thesis repository next summer. We've tested all the files work. It's just entire bureaucracy because there has to be a sign off between the library, the student, and the office, the graduate office, and bureaucracy. So we're going to be an Invenio RDM shop, and we're really happy with things that have been going so far. We'll do next slide. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of a preview of what Invenio RDM looks like because it's relatively new. We're happy to answer questions because we're going all in on Invenio. We really love it, and we want to share this with everybody else. It's a great community.
Great. Thank you so much, Kristen. And now we're going to move to Julie.
Great. Thank you so much, Emily. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about Research Data Management Librarian Academy, or RDMLA. You can find out more about RDMLA on our GitHub site. And I just want to quick shout out to thank Ashley Tomlis, the RDMLA coordinator, for help with these slides. So we can go to the next slide. So as Emily said, I am Julie Goldman. I'm the Research Data Services Librarian at Harvard Library. For this panel today, I wanted to bring my experience in developing and offering education materials to the data community. So just starting with a little bit about me, I received my MLIS from Simmons University, where I first learned about research data management and data librarianship through the New England Collaborative Data Management Curriculum, or NECDEMIC, which is a set of instructional modules that address key components of the National Science Foundation's, or NSF's, data management plan recommendations, which is a policy that has been in place since 2011. Like many data librarians, I have used these materials and contributed to them over time. Prior to my role at Harvard, I worked with a national network of libraries of medicine in the New England region, coordinating professional development for data librarians. This eScience program and one of the key resources we developed, the eScience portal for librarians, has recently been reimagined as the NNLM National Center for Data Services, NSCDS, which is in the concurrent session if you're interested in learning more about them. But a successful project for re-envisioning what NECDEMIC looked like was our best practices for biomedical research data management MOOC course, which was live on Canvas from January 2018 to this past January 2023. With our NIH funding, we made NECDEMIC an interactive course, and it closed with nearly 13,000 students worldwide. Most recently, I've served as a Simmons University adjunct faculty teaching RDM. I run lots of RDM webinars to our community on a daily basis. And then finally, I am here to talk about RDMLA. I'm an instructor on 2 of the units and involved in the ongoing development of this course. So along with RDMLA and all of that education experience, I hope to contribute to the ongoing discussions and efforts of training data librarians, not only for new professionals to the field, but all of our ongoing learning and development, which we are celebrating just being here at the RDAP Summit. A common thread throughout all of these efforts I have been a part of is the concept of partnership and community, and I will now show that with RDMLA. So moving on to the next slide, shown here is an image of the course landing page on Canvas Network. This is an open online course on Canvas. You can find it directly at the link on the slide. Next slide, please. So in 2018, the group conducted a needs assessment survey and environmental scan of research data management, finding that RDM training is very distributed, and bringing together these training efforts and in one place may help. So over the next year, instructors worked with Simmons University instructional designers and usability professionals to produce 8 units. And the course launched on October 7th in 2019. The main target audience of the course is for practicing librarians to enhance and retool their skills on RDM practices and projects, really filling that identified gap in RDM training. Additionally, the course can help researchers wishing to learn more about RDM foundations and related tools and software. So the course is offering both foundational knowledge, but also trending or important topics. Next slide, please. So the course has developed in partnership with industry, teams of librarians, and library and information science faculty who have expertise with data management. So listed on the slide here are logos from all of the partners that have been involved so far. And if we go to the next slide, 4 partners I would like to highlight. So as Emily mentioned, RDMLA is financially funded by Elsevier. Simmons University oversees and issues continuing education certificates, which was launched in February of 2020. We have also partnered with the National Taiwan University to translate the initial units into traditional Chinese language. And these units launched on Canvas in November of 2021. And then finally, RDMLA is an approved basic level course for the Medical Library Association's data services specialization. Next slide. So this slide is showing the original 8 units of RDMLA, which really focus on those RDM foundational concepts, building our data services and various data tools. 3 new units launched in late 2020 and early 2021, which focused on developing your own data management training and focused topics like curation and copyright. On the next slide, please. I mentioned that RDMLA also focuses on those trending topics. Therefore, these mini modules they've launched are focused on presenting relevant and important information in a timely fashion. They provide key points and concerns. They address how individuals, institutions, and stakeholders may be effective, and they evolve as the subject matter changes and updates. So the 2 mini modules RDMLA has right now are on data ethics, and then one on the new NIH data management and sharing policy. Next slide, please. So as much as we hear people want that on-demand available training, it is also acknowledged that facilitated hands-on experience is a crucial aspect to learning these concepts. So the group has developed this data services continuing professional education, which is an 8-week online intensive learning experience, preparing early to mid-career working librarians for data services. The pilot cohort in fall 2022 included 15 students. Tuition was covered by Elsevier. While this program included that self-paced learning of RDMLA content, there were also live sessions with unit instructors and also a 70-hour virtual capstone field experience. So listed on the slide here are those capstone partners who are matched with students, offering an opportunity for students to shadow the daily work of data professionals in projects ranging from data analytics, data services, data instruction. We're still reviewing the feedback from everyone involved in that first cohort, but overall, we are finding that students were highly satisfied with their experience, and the program will continue in fall 2023, yay, opening to 20 new students, so keep your eye on the website for complete information. Next slide, please. This slide just gives you a sense of how the programs are going, so I just leave you with some key statistics, particularly the almost 8,000 active learners have taken RDMLA, and then we're really happy to see the growth of those professional education participants having, a poster accepted at an upcoming conference, for example. And also getting promotions and new jobs is awesome too. And my next slide, I will quickly wrap up here. So what are some takeaways from RDMLA and other education efforts? So online training offers structured learning on practices and topics, also offering the ability to present current topics. Capstones offer those hand-on experiences, giving students experiences they may not receive in traditional degree programs. So I do have to mention this is just one effort in this area. There are many others, even from some of the partners with RDMLA. I mentioned the National Center for Data Services, Data Curation Network, and even RDAP. So these partnerships are a great way to connect these efforts together. I'll leave you with my final concern and some questions. My continued concern is how do these efforts stay up to date and relevant? I have seen, with other projects, due to lack of resources and commitment, those materials become outdated, and, lost. For example, we had to close our MOOC because it didn't have that investment to keep it going, even though there was high interest in the content. So thank you for the opportunity to share about RDMLA and my experience, and I look forward to the continued discussion.
Thank you so much, Julie. That